Hi, my name is Dr. Stephanie Waggle. I specialize in medication management for pregnant and postpartum women, and I'm about to tell you a story about the pharmaceutical industry and the insurance companies. So I have a patient, and she is suffering from postpartum depression. Is this a rare condition? No, it's really not. It happens to about 700,000 to 1 million women each year. So in the past 10 years, maybe 10 million women have had postpartum depression. So definitely not rare or mysterious. So I sent her in a prescription for the only FDA approved medication for postpartum depression to her pharmacy, which has 3 letters and I won't name. And then they started gaslighting me. They sent her a message saying that your doctor prescribed it wrong or something. And then I honestly was like, oh my gosh, did I prescribe it wrong? No, I didn't prescribe it wrong. I called them and they're like, oh, we don't have it in stock. And I'm like, your doctor prescribed it wrong is a really funny way of saying we don't have it in stock, but okay. And they said, our specialty pharmacy has it. And I said, well, can you send it over to your specialty pharmacy? And they said, no, you have to do it. And I said, sure, I'm not busy treating 1,000 other patients. Of course, I sent it to the specialty pharmacy. So the specialty pharmacy calls and faxes me all these questions. They want all this information about this patient. And I've never in my life been asked these questions about a male patient, but okay, I have to play their games. So I give them all this personal information about her. And then after I give them all this information, they say, okay, well, the insurance isn't going to approve this, so you're going to need to do a prior authorization. But even with the prior authorization, it's probably still expensive. So if you get the prior authorization denied, we have a program where she can get the medication for even cheaper. And I'm like, okay. So I call the patient's health insurance company and I basically say, hey, can you guys just deny it because the specialty pharmacy has like a coupon or something where she could get it for even cheaper than what you'd even be willing to pay for it if you did approve a prior authorization. And they were like, nah. And I'm like, okay, well, let me just do the prior authorization. I have a few hours free this evening. Let's go. And so they faxed me all this paperwork and they asked me all these questions and they're like, does she have postpartum depression? And I'm like, yeah, duh. That's like literally why I want her to have it. And they're like, do you want her to have this medication? And I was like, well, I'm really not in the habit of prescribing things that I don't want patients to have. So I'm going to have to say yes. I so desperately want her to have this medication that I spent hours on the phone with people. And then they said, well, you have to call the pharmacy benefit manager. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I call these new people and they ask the same questions that I just answered and I play the game. And after an inordinate amount of time and a number of people I talked to, they said, okay, congratulations. It has been approved. And I'm like, well, how much is it approved for? Because if you're only going to cover half, which is like, $10,000, it's not going to be very helpful. And they're like, we can't tell you how much it's going to be. It's a mystery to us. So then I tell the patient it was approved, but they won't tell me how much it's going to be. And she's going to need to try to pick it up from the pharmacy to find out. So she calls the specialty pharmacy and they say, actually, we don't work with your insurance. So we're going to have to send it to this other place that does work with your insurance. So she calls the other pharmacy and they say, oh, we don't have it. Nobody ever sent it to us. And then she calls the specialty pharmacy back and they were like, we don't know why they don't have it. We sent it to them. No woman with a brand new baby and postpartum depression has the time or energy to go through all these hoops. This needs to be made illegal.